بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is the position of Ahlulbayt in Islam and to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What role did they play? Why they are so important? Why in the school of Shia Islam there is so much emphasis on this term, Ahlulbayt? It has been repeated in every session, in every place, in every house. The golden word is Ahlulbayt. Because Ahlulbayt has been mentioned in the Quran by their name, Ahlulbayt, and by their stories and their characters. One of the most powerful references to the family of the Prophet, to his progeny, to his household in the Quran is in Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 61. Ayatul Mubahala, the malediction verse that took place in Medina. A very important event. Group of the Christian of Najran in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula came to meet with the Prophet and to find out about his mission. So they stayed in Medina apparently for a few days, and they had discussion with the Prophet over the identity of Jesus. And they insisted on the divinity of Jesus, that he's the Son of God. The Prophet showed them all the evidence that Jesus is just a human being, a messenger of God. قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا. I am the slave of God. I am the servant of God. He appointed me and ordained me a messenger, a prophet. He has given me the book. But they did not accept that. They insisted on their views. And when there was no solution, the Prophet said, at the guidance of the Quran, that let's go to the desert, the two parties, and invoke God to send his punishment on the party of the liars. This is how the Quran states the story. إن مثل عيسى عند الله كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون الحق من ربك فلا تكن من الممترين فمن حاجك فيه من بعد ما جاءك من العلم فقل تعالوا ندعو أبناءنا وأبناءكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتهل فنجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. Long story, to make it short. Quran is asserting that the similitude of Jesus to God is like dust. So don't be surprised. The Creator, which is God, is able to create someone or something out of dirt and clay. This is a miracle. So don't attribute him to divinity, to the sonhood of God. So when they refused, let's go to the desert, they agreed. Their pontiff, Abdul Masih, said, let's go and do mubahala with the Prophet. But on the following day, when the group preceded the Prophet to that place of Mubahala outside Medina, he said to his companions and his followers, Linara, let's see, let's wait and see. If Muhammad comes with his companions, definitely we will go ahead with the Mubahala. But if Muhammad comes with his immediate family members, we would not do Mubahala. We would not go through this process of invoking the curse of God upon the liars, because this would be very risky. While they were standing and watching, all of a sudden the Prophet appeared. The Prophet is coming. Behind him, holding or carrying, in one arm carrying Hussein alayhi salam, and another arm holding Hassan alayhi salam. Behind him, a lady. Behind her, a man. They asked the people around them, can you identify those people? They said, yes, this is the Prophet carrying his two grandsons. Behind him immediately his daughter Fatima. Behind her, his cousin Ali ibn Abi Talib. The pontiff said, Wallahi inni ara wujuhan. لو سئل الله تعالى أن يزيل بها جبلا لأزاله. By the Lord, I can see faces right in front of me. That if God is asked by them for their sake to remove a mountain from earth, definitely He is going to remove it. فَلَا تُبَاهِلُوا. We are not going to go through this process. فَإِنَّهُ سَيَفْطَرِمُ عَلَيْكُمُ الْوَادِي نَارًا. If you do mubahala and ask God to send His curse on the liars, we're going to be burned. The entire valley here around us is going to be overwhelmed with fire today. So he backed off. And then he took his group back to Najran. But after a few days, he came with some of his senior assistants. They came back to the Medina. They stood before the Prophet. The cardinal, the pontiff, stood before the Prophet declaring, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So the Prophet here, he brought his immediate family. While he had wives in Medina, there were other children, there were other men. فَقُلْ تَعَالَوْ نَدْعُ أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَنِسَاءَنَا وَنِسَاءَكُمْ وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ. We invite our children. The Prophet is saying, our children. Do you need more evidence that Hassan and Hussein are the direct children of the Prophet? This is the Quran. أَبْنَاءَنَا وَأَبْنَاءَكُمْ. Reference to Hassan and Hussein. Nisa'ana, our women. It's only Fatima here. وَأَنفُسَنَا, ourselves and yourselves. Commentators, they say, نَفْسُ عَلِيٍّ هِيَ نَفْسُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. The soul of Ali is the match to the soul of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another verse that asserts the position of Ahlulbayt and their importance is the verse of salutation, which is in chapter 33, Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 56. إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Commentators say, and the transmitters of hadith, that the Muslims came to the Prophet, they said, يا رسول الله لقد عرفنا كيف نسلم عليك فعلمنا كيف نصلي عليك. We know how to greet you. Teach us how to salute you. He said to them, قال قولوا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. In another hadith, the Prophet says, لا تصلوا علي الصلاة البتراء. Do not send an amputated prayers, incomplete prayers upon me. They said, Ya Rasulullah, وَمَا الصَّلَاةُ الْبَتْرَاء? What do you mean by an incomplete prayers? and salutation. He said, أن تصلوا علي وتتركوا آلي. You salute me, but you leave my family behind. بل قولوا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. When you want to salute me, add my family to me. Say, O God, send your mercy upon Muhammad and his family. Nowadays, unfortunately, many Muslims, many scholars, many imams who lead the Friday prayers, who give sermons, who give speeches, they send salutation upon the Prophet, but they leave his family behind. This is an incomplete salutation. This is not complete. An incomplete one. لا تصلوا علي الصلاة البتراء. It won't be accepted. This is the command of the Prophet. You have to include his family in that. And remember, when we do that in the prayers and the tashahhud, when we are sitting, all Muslims, they have to send their prayers upon the Prophet and his family. Another verse that pertains to the exalted position of Ahlulbayt is the verse of feeding. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. Actually, it's a whole chapter, Surah Al-Insan, chapter 76, from 5 until 13. إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. We only feed you for the sake of God. Commentators say Hassan and Hussein, the two kids of Ali and Fatima alayhim as-salam, they fell sick. So Fatima al-Zahra came to her father telling him, he's next door. They live in the same house. And the Prophet taught her to make a vow, nadhr, that if God cures them, He will do something good. A virtuous act. So Fatima alayhi salam just did that. She made the nadhr. And when Hassan and Hussein were cured, she made nadhr to fast for 3 days. So they decided to begin the fasting. There were 5 people in the house. Imam Ali, Fatima al-Zahra, Hassan and Hussein, and Fidda, the servant maid who lived with them. She was part of their family, helping them out. They fasted. The first day, they were about to break their fast. A miskeen comes, someone who's destitute, in a desperate position and state. He asked for some help. On the second day when they fasted, at the time of breaking their fast, with 5 loaves of bread, nothing else added to it, an orphan came, وَيَتِيمًا. They gave the food to him the first night, the second night, the third night. Just about to break their fast, with 5 loaves of bread, again another prisoner of war who was in Medina was captured by the Muslims. He came to them, knocking at their door, asking for food. They gave him all the 5 loaves of bread. They were left with no food for 3 days. After that, the Prophet comes to visit his daughter. He looks at her. She was shivering. Hassan and Hussein were both shivering. of weakness. They haven't eaten anything for 3 days. Their faces were pale. And here the Prophet realizes that Fatima Zahra alayhi salam and her family were fasting for 3 days. And each time where they were about to break their fast, someone knocks at the door asking for some help. They take all the food, which is only bread and nothing else, and they give it to him. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. Despite they give the food for the sake of God. عَلَى حُبِّهِ is reference to God. For the love of God, they give it to miskeen, to the destitute, to an orphan, to a prisoner of war. إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ, indeed, we give you for the sake of God. We are not awaiting to compliment us. No complimentary, no praise, no word of thanks. لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. This is the noble sacrifice of Ahlulbayt. This is the noble generosity of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the most important narrations of the Prophet vis-a-vis his family and their relevance to Islam and their sacrifice and their relevance to the future of Islam is Hadith al-Thaqalayn. Hadith al-Thaqalayn has been narrated by over 20 companions of the Prophet and over 180 references, major references in the Sunni tradition, among them books of tafsir, commentary on the Quran, among them books of hadith, among them books of history, document this hadith because it has been said by the Prophet at least 5 times on 5 different occasions during 5 different events. The last one being on his deathbed. But before that, he said it in Mecca. He said it in Medina. He said the hadith, same hadith in Ghadir Khum. يوشك أن أدعى فأجيب وإني تارك. It is probable that I will be called soon and I will be responding. So I leave behind me 2 weighty things. Weighty things. Not physical weight, spiritual weight. 2 important things. 2 worthy things. Kitab Allah, the book of Allah, which is a strange stretched, hablun mamdudun, from the heaven to earth, بين السماء والأرض. And my progeny, وعترتي, أهل بيتي, my family. Verily Allah, the Merciful, the Aware, has informed me, وإن اللطيف الخبير أنبأني أنهما لن يفترقا حتى يرد علي الحوض, that these 2 will never be separated from each other until they meet me at the fountain of abundance on the day of judgment. This is a spring in heaven. Therefore, فانظروا كيف تخلفوني فيهما أو تخلفوني فيهما. Be careful of how you treat these 2 in my absence. It has been narrated by over 20 companions. They go hand in hand. The mentor, the messenger, the leader, the prophet is leaving physically his community. But mentally, spiritually, he is among them through 2 things. Kitab Allah, the Holy Quran. وعترتي أهل بيتي, and my progeny. They go hand in hand. They have this eternal alliance. They are not separated. As much as Ahlulbayt, they need the Quran, the Holy Quran also needs Ahlulbayt. Because they are the interpreters of the Quran, the authentic interpretation. Tafsir Ahlulbayt is the most authentic. Yes, we may hear some tafsir, some interpretation from this companion or that companion, and we accept it. But the most authentic when it comes from the family of the Prophet. They are not going to be separated. They are together. They have this eternal alliance and partnership with each other because they complement each other. The Quran is important and Ahlul Bayt are important too. One explains the other, one supports the other, one complements the other. This is one hadith. The other hadith is Hadith al-Safina. The parable of my family among you is the parable of the Noah arks. من ركبها نجا مثل أهل بيتي فيكم كمثل سفينة نوح. Whoever embarks on that ark is going to receive salvation. Whoever chooses not to embark on that ark, he would receive drowning and damnation. Now you come to the Muslim community. Some of them, they chose to embark on that ark to be safe and rescued. They are on the safe path to the Prophet. Yes, they are being killed, tortured, persecuted, driven out of their lands, exterminated, but they are on the right path. They are the minority, but they are on the right path. Others, willingly, some of them, chose not to follow. وَمَنْ تَخَلَّفَ عَنْهَا غَرِقَ وَهَوَى. If they chose not to embark on that ship, the ship of salvation, is going to drown. They're going to drown. They're going to receive damnation in this life and in the hereafter. These are some of the sayings, very important sayings. These are some examples of the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ regarding his family and how they are relevant to our faith, to our religion, and to the future of Islam.